Spies. Fear. Pomegranates. God promised his people a land of their own. One problem, though, other people were already living there. And the people who were living there, they were bad. And I mean real bad. Now the Canaanites, the people who already lived in the land, they had idols. They worshipped false and fake gods that weren't the real God that should be worshipped. They hurt people, and God gave them a lot of time to stop doing bad things. In fact, it says back when God was talking to Abraham in Genesis that he gave them like 400 years for them to quit doing bad things. But they didn't. If the people stayed in the land, when God's people, the Israelites, came, they would cause the Israelites to do bad things too. And God didn't want that at all. So what he did was he did a few things. God first drove out people from the land. It says that he sent his angel before him to drive people out and to put fear in them so that they run away. It's like they just thought, well, I better move. I don't know why, but I'm really scared. And they heard about God's people coming, and so some of them left. But there were some people who decided to stay. And so for the Israelites to have the land, they had to fight. In the book of Numbers, it talks about how the Israelites first went into the land. And Numbers is a book in the Bible, and we're going to look at chapter 13, verse 1. And it says, "The Lord said to Moses, 'Send some men to explore the land of Canaan, which I am giving to the Israelites.'" And so God told the people, send some spies. Send some people who are going to look in the land. And the spies that they sent, they had to be very sneaky. Are you sneaky? Would your mom or dad say that you're sneaky? Let's do our best. Will you sneak around with me? Let's be sneaky together. When the sneaky spies came back, they said that the land was very good. It was really good for farming, and it made lots of fruit, including pomegranates. But what they also found was that there were some scary things over there in that land. There were giants, they were really tall people, there were big walls in the cities that kept people out, and people were saying, we can't do anything against these people. We can't get this land even though God has promised it to us. Walls can be scary. This one time I was at a trampoline park and I tried to go up a curved wall and I fell and I hurt my ankle. Sometimes walls are hard to get around, or walls are kind of hard to get over. But the people weren't trusting in what God had promised them. 10 spies out of 12 came back and said, we can't do it. But there were 2 spies that said, God is with us. We can do it. We're going to do an activity that talks about those 2 spies. Here I have an egg carton. There were 12 spies that Moses sent into Canaan to check it out. And so since there were 12 spies, here I have an egg carton that holds a dozen eggs. And a dozen eggs makes 12. And so we are going to draw the faces of the spies that went into the promised land. So on each little egg slot on the bottom of this egg carton, you're going to draw 10 grumpy faces. And then you're going to draw 2 happy faces. So let's draw them together. Here are my 10 grumpy faces, and now I'm going to draw 2 happy faces. Because 2 of the spies that went into the land, they trusted God. And they believed that God was going to get them through it. And those 2 were Caleb and Joshua. So 10 of them said, we can't do it. We can't get in the land. There's too many bad, scary things there. And Joshua and Caleb said, God will make a way for us. The bad news is, all the people listened to the people who weren't on God's side. They listened to the 10 spies that said, God can't do it. And so the people became very sad. In Numbers chapter 14, verses 1 through 4, it says, that night, all the people of the community raised their voices and wept aloud. All the Israelites grumbled against Moses and Aaron, and the whole assembly said to them, if we had only died in Egypt or in this desert, why is the Lord bringing us to this land only to let us fall by the sword? Our wives and children will be taken as plunder. Wouldn't it be better for us to go back to Egypt? And they said to each other, we should choose a leader and go back to Egypt. And so the people were about done with Moses at this point. They said, let's throw rocks at him and then get out of here. And they didn't trust what God had promised. And God was not happy with them. And so God punished his people for not trusting him. God had promised that he was going to get them to this good land, but they didn't believe him. So again, Numbers chapter 14, verses 20 through 23. The Lord replied, I have forgiven them, as you asked. He forgave the people. Nevertheless, as surely as I live, and as surely as the glory of the Lord fills the whole earth, not one of the men who saw my glory and miraculous signs I performed in Egypt and in the desert, but those who disobeyed me and tested me 10 times, not one of them will ever see the land I promised on oath to their forefathers. No one who has treated me with contempt will ever see it. So God forgave his people, but he said, you're going to have to wander in the desert away from the land that I promised you for 40 years. Kids and parents, God can do anything. God can work through any situation. Even if there's high walls and giants and scary things and everything else, God can work through that. And we can trust him, and we can listen to him and do whatever he says. There are going to be times in our lives where it may feel like we miss out if we listen to God. It may feel like we don't get to do fun things if we obey God. But what we need to remember is that God has the best for us, and it's all going to be worth it in the end, and we'll be blessed if we listen to him. Sometimes it feels like God is calling us to do something scary, and we feel like, I can't do it. But God will be with us. God will give us the power to do all that he's called us to do. God is forgiving, and he is merciful, and we can trust him. Let's be like the 2 spies, and let's be like Jesus, who obeyed his Father anytime, all the time, his whole life, and did whatever he called him to do. Thank you for joining us today, and Sunday school this week. Hope to see you there, and may God bless you.